Morning guys, and welcome to episode 23 of Global Contenders, the review series for Gran Turismo's touring car lineup. And in this particular episode we're featuring another fictional touring car, a Polyphony Digital original vehicle, and this is, I would say, one of the best fictional touring cars in the game. It's the Mazda RX-7 Touring Car, a vehicle which arguably has no place being a touring car, in a very similar way, I would say, to the TVR Tuscan touring car, which I do not believe should be a touring car at all. I believe it should be classified in a similar way to vehicles like the Suzuki Cappuccino race car, purely as just that, a race car, not a touring car. But be that as it may, this car is categorised as a touring car, and likewise with the Tuscan, that makes it very useful. Because of course the vast majority of touring cars are based on coupes, sedans, etc., whereas this one is based on a sports car. And when you base a vehicle, a racing vehicle in particular, on an existing high-performance sports car, you've just got so much more to work with straight off the bat. The vehicle is already designed for that kind of speed. Whereas with something like a larger coupe or a sedan even, they're not really designed for that kind of cornering in particular, but also that kind of straight line speed. Some of them are that quick, but most of them aren't. They tend to be a bit big and bloated looking for that kind of racing. Now that being said, stuff like sedans make fantastic touring cars. The Audi A4 DTM, for instance, is a perfect example of a brilliant sedan-based race car. A sports car, though, will always have that innate advantage, and you can feel that most definitely in the RX-7. The centre of gravity is really low, the weight is naturally lower and can be made to be much lighter than, say, a sedan or a bigger coupe, and to more or less of a degree, the innate potential for having sheer power and performance is already there. You don't even have to really do that much to make it a great race car. Now you can definitely feel that in the case of this Mazda. It's got a 2-litre rotary engine. You can tune that engine up to just under 700 horsepower, 696, so it is a little bit more powerful than the road-going RX-7s. As far as torque, it puts out 466 foot-pounds, and it weighs in at less than a tonne, 975 kilos. Now the fact that it weighs less than a tonne means that the horsepower per tonne will always be pretty good, even when you haven't got as much power to work with, and that's definitely the case for this car. 714 horsepower per tonne means that it's up there with the best of them. It's not necessarily quite as high as, say, a CLK or an Astra, but it is higher than, for instance, the 155, the Calibra, and various others. So that's good in terms of potential, on paper at least. The fully tuned PP is 622, which, if you think about it, is pretty reasonable given the power and weight, and the price of this car, I would say, is excellent. Most, if not all, of the fictional touring cars tend to have much lower prices. That's the case with this one, and for the money, which is 220,000 credits in the case of this car, it's a superb purchase. I would definitely recommend this touring car, and even though it's not real, which is unfortunate, it's very useful. Now in terms of straight line performance, it's not as quick as the road-going RX-7, regardless of NOS or draft, but that's not too surprising. You've got much more aerodynamic resistance, much more downforce to work with. It's just not designed for top-end speed. Acceleration, though, is very good. The handling is excellent, partially due to just how low the weight is, and overall, the track potential of this car, as with pretty much any RX-7, is excellent. I'm a huge RX-7 fan of any generation, but the FD in particular, and this car, although it isn't real, really does the FD series RX-7 justice. It's a genuinely competitive and highly usable touring car. Now the fact that it is a fictional touring car also means that, like many of those others, it can be painted, so you do have that added level of personalisation, which you don't generally get from an actual real touring car with the real livery, etc. What you get is what you get. Whereas with cars like this, you can have any colour you want, which makes it more personalisable. You can change the race number, etc. Now overall, in terms of where it falls competitively, I would say that this is definitely one of the best fictional touring cars in the game. It's not necessarily quite as effective as the DTM cars. Some of them it can beat under the right circumstances, something like an Alfa Romeo 155 for instance. This car can beat that on a track which will allow this car more top-end performance. The Le Mans for instance, or tracks like that, this will be able to overtake the Alfa Romeo. Other cars though, like the CLK, the Astra and various others, it'll struggle against those kind of cars. Overall though, this is a superb touring car, and if you're talking pure value for money, well, it's a good 1,000,000 credits cheaper than most of its closest great rivals, like the aforementioned CLK, etc. So overall, if you're looking for a dependable and especially an affordable touring car that can genuinely go beyond its raw price in terms of competitive range, then this vehicle will serve you very well, and I would definitely recommend checking it out if you're looking for racing in general, but also specifically, of course, touring car racing. But that's it overall for this particular pick. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.